In this video, we will be discussing molecular machines, which are structures in your cells that make sure your body is working properly. All machines have inputs and outputs. They all have moving parts. For the molecular machines we learned in this semester, PDC, the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, has a swinging arm. ATP synthase, the second molecular machine we learned, has a rotating section called F1. And mitoribosomes have moving messenger RNA that goes through it for translation. Additionally, they all have subunits that make up each machine, just like normal machines are made of different tools such as screws and bolts and nails and cogs. The PDC is composed of three different parts, E1, E2, and E3. ATP synthase is composed of a stationary part, F1, and a mobile part, F0. Mitoribosomes are composed of a large subunit and a small subunit. All three of these machines are involved in cellular respiration, which is how we convert carbohydrates from things like bread into energy. The PDC is one of the first steps in this long process of cellular respiration, while ATP synthase is one of the last. The mitoribosome is in charge of creating some of these proteins that are needed for the process to occur altogether.
We have a cellular machine named PDC that's made up of three parts and multiple proteins that intake broken sugar, convert the sugar into energy, and then repair itself.
ATP synthase will play a vital role in the production of ATP and creates usable energy for the cell in a process known as metabolism. The fats and sugars that come from the food we consume are broken down through a series of steps by glycolysis Krebs cycle to produce ATP. These processes produce a molecule known as NADH, also known as electron carrier, because of its capacity to take electrons from one molecule and transfer them to someplace else. So NADH passes its electrons through the electron transport chain. By using the energy made available from transferring electrons, protons, otherwise known as the hydrogen atom, that are positively charged, are pumped across the mitochondrial membrane. This creates what is known as a gradient, where one side of the membrane has a much larger concentration of protons relative to the other side, which has a smaller concentration of protons. This concentration gradient is utilized by ATP synthase to create ATP. By using the transferring of protons from a high concentration side to the low concentration side, energy can be stored in the ATP molecules. So now let's recap. As these two GIFs show, ATP is synthesized by a protein known as ATP synthase, which uses a proton gradient to create the ATP molecule. When you run out of ATP, you could feel tired or weak. Sometimes people are born with issues in their ATP synthase genes and can suffer from neurological issues, heart issues, and muscle weakness. That's because those three things require the most ATP in your body.
Each cell contains instructions in a molecule known as deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA for short. DNA is made up of four different building blocks known as nucleotides. These nucleotides encode for the function of each cell and act as an instruction manual for your body. However, your ribosomes, the protein that makes proteins, can't read the instruction manual right away. Instead, your cells need to turn the manual into a language that the ribosomes can understand. Transcription is a process that converts the instructions of the DNA into the readable messenger RNA. Once the DNA has been transcribed into the readable language of mRNA, the mRNA leaves the nucleus and enters the cytoplasm. Here, the mRNA is inserted into the ribosome that can use the instructions to create different proteins to fulfill each cell's functions. This process is known as translation. So there are ribosomes not only in the cytoplasm, but also in the mitochondria. These ribosomes are called mitoribosomes, as we discussed earlier, and they look like this. These ribosomes are different from the cytoplasmic ribosomes because they are in charge of creating proteins specifically for the mitochondria. The mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell because they're involved in releasing energy from food that's consumed. This process is otherwise known as cellular respiration. So mitaribosomes can create 13 essential proteins that are important for the process of oxidative phosphorylation in a pathway where cells use enzymes to release energy to create ATP. If the ribosome or mitoribosome fails to complete this function, then the cells can't read their instruction manual and they begin to fail. I hope this has been helpful, and thanks for watching.